So in this video, we are looking at a 1993 Honda Civic Del Sol SI model that I just got done doing a restorative refinish job on. And what we mean by restorative refinish is, I know there's a lot of guys out there that just kind of tape off what they need to, do minimal disassembly and get the paint on the car, and that's not what we're about over here. We are going to fully disassemble as much as is necessary to both do a really clean paint job and also address all of the little issues that are lying underneath on a 25 or 30 plus year old car. Things like broken seam sealer and slight corrosion. Even on a really good example like this car that's been mostly garage kept, we still find a few places here and there that we can go ahead and address now while we're doing all this work and spending the money to make sure we take care of those little issues so that we have a good car for years and years to come. That's what we're about here. A great example right here is this little bit of corrosion that we found behind the front targa seal along the windshield pillars pinch weld. That's a very minor spot that we can go ahead and get that surface corrosion off of, get epoxy on there, refinish it, won't have to worry about it. Whereas if we would have just slapped that seal back on there, more water would get trapped against that edge, and that could turn into a really big problem very quickly. On nearly every Honda I've ever pulled the windshield out of, I will find some sort of corrosion up in the corners near the roof seams. That's why I will always recommend that if we're doing an all-over paint job, it'll be best to go ahead and pull that glass. We'll end up with a cleaner paint job with no tape lines around the edge of the moldings, and we'll also be able to inspect for corrosion, completely clean away all of the old urethane, lay a new coat of epoxy to the bare metal, and then we do a refinish work on top of that while leaving a small area still exposed so that we get direct contact between our new urethane installation and that epoxy that we put down. Sometimes I'm going to recommend to a customer that we go ahead and plan on replacing the glass because maybe it's already scratched or chipped. In the case of this glass, it had been replaced within the last few years and was in very good shape. So we planned on just really taking our time with it and being very careful using only hand tools, and as you can see, we were able to fully remove it without incident at all. We then reinstalled the glass using an aftermarket molding around the edge, and the reason I've been talking about the windshield so much during this teardown process is because if you want to use this flush fitting molding, you need to plan ahead of time and do this as part of your paint project because it requires removing the metal studs that held the original clips for the OEM moldings. I recommend doing this so much on the older Hondas because you can't source new windshield moldings from Honda anymore. Plus, this gives it such a much better look and allows you to tape back the rubber edge of the molding. If you need paint work done in the future, you can get it masked off without leaving a hard, crusty tape line around the edge of the molding. I also want to point out where we found behind the windshield, the previous glass installers had scratched the paint when they removed the old glass. And now we can see where corrosion has set in where they scratched it all the way down through the seam sealer into the bare metal. This would no doubt turn into a water leak, and every time this car got rained on or got washed, more water would get down in there and just compound the problem, accelerating corrosion even further. This is just another reason why I'm big on removing this glass. If you're gonna do a paint job on the whole car, go ahead and take care of these issues now. So I'm working on the driver's side now, and I found pretty much the same issues we found on the passenger side. It looks like a deep cut in the seam sealer that's still fairly soft, and the brown, crusty, rusty stuff underneath that seam sealer. So I'm going to clean more away in this area. Hopefully it hasn't spread too far. That rust will eventually creep underneath that bead of urethane, and you'll have a water leak coming in behind your windshield or your floor getting wet. So we're gonna strip all that away and make sure we don't have a issue later on. And while we're talking about breaches in the seam sealer causing water leaks and corrosion, check this out. That little crack can let a lot of water inside of your trunk. So there's a lot of water issues with the Del Sol. You know, the Targa top seals can leak. That's been a plague since they were brand new. But this is one of those things that I'm going to do for my customer while we're getting ready to do a full paint job on this car. Why wouldn't you go ahead and look for these trouble spots? This would be terrible if I put a coat of paint just over everything and then somebody scratches everything up, taking stuff apart, chasing a water leak later on. All this takes is a nice little brush-on seam sealer to fill that crack before we do the rest of the paint process, and problem's taken care of. And there's a little crack on the other side too. We're making sure that we get every little bit sealed up back here. Other things we're looking for during the teardown and evaluation process are sealants that need to be replaced behind the weather strips, especially on this Del Sol model around the Targa top seals. We're looking to identify previous repairs that could be problems later on, and overall just being very observant of anything that could cause an issue after the paint job. On this car, we did find an area on the left quarter panel that definitely needed to be addressed. Looks like in a previous collision repair, some holes were drilled all the way through the metal, and we're going to discuss our repair process on that in the next video. I hope you'll join us for part 2 in this video series, where we're going to talk about some of those issues we found, talk about the repair processes, and everything involved with getting this car ready for paint.